Good morning, good afternoon, or maybe good evening. I don't know what time you decided to stop by, but I'm sure glad you did. Welcome to Confessions. I'm your host, Coach Nikki G. Today's topic is so important yet overlooked, dealing with unhealed triggers, those deep-rooted wounds that hunt you like ghosts. They are controlling your actions and your thoughts. What is an unhealed trigger? Basically, it's like an invisible illness. To others, you may seem fine, but in reality, you are stuck in the past, battling emotional and physical symptoms that make it challenging to live a quality life. Now, what kind of emotional symptoms? Well, fear. You're living in fear every day about something that happened to you in your past. And that fear is controlling your actions. Another thing that happens is you may become an emotional eater, eating up all your emotions. I can relate to both of those because I ate 300 pounds of my emotions before I decided to unload those pounds. Physical symptoms. It could be heart problems. Of course, you would have high blood pressure because you're always worried, stressed, anxiety. And then that increases your risk for cancer because you're steadily stressing your body out. And inflammation. We all know that leads to cancer and a whole bunch of other diseases of the body. So if you're ready to live a full quality life and you're ready to deal with those triggers, this is the podcast for you. My podcast is to help you grow your muscle. I'm your coach, but I'm a different type of coach. I want to build your emotional and mental muscle. And I'm going to give you ways to do that. Now, what is a trigger? Triggers are defined as things that may cause a reactivation or a reactivation of some kind of negative or positive experience. I'm focusing on the negative because for a lot of us, we're going to focus more on the negative than the positive. That's just how a lot of us, that's how we do. We just live our life stuck in the negative. Now, another thing about that, once you're reactivated, what do? Do you get angry? Do you constantly live in fear? Do you develop anxiety? What type of person are you once you're triggered? And for a lot of us right now, let me give you an example. At one time in my life, I was like an AK-47, loaded, ready to shoot. Song come on, I'm firing. I see someone's face, I'm ready, I'm firing. I was angry and just stressed out all the time. And over time, it affected my body. But my case in point was when I decided to heal or take this journey of healing, I had to identify all those triggers. And along with identifying all those triggers, I had to basically evaluate the people that were in my life and why they were in my life. Because a lot of them, we were just one big trauma bond. The dark with the dark. Remember I said before, the light and the dark, they do not mix. So you have to do all of those things in your journey of healing. Now, when you're dealing with triggers, there are two ways most people deal with them. They either avoid them at all costs. Oh, I'm not going over to this person's house, or I'm not dealing with this family member because of this whatever. You avoid it. Or I'm not going on Facebook, or I'm not listening to that, or I'm not eating this type of food. Whatever, you avoid it at all costs because of the reactivation. And then you have some people that just straight up deal with them. Now, when you get to a point where you're tired and you're ready to handle all of these negative emotions that you're experiencing, just know it's not an easy process. You may need help, and it's okay to seek some help. At the end of this podcast, I'm going to give you some people that you may reach out to and that could help you, with your process. For me, as the young people say, I got mine in the mud. I just laid down one day and just decided, you know what? I'm tired of laying down. I want to get up. So why am I reacting this certain way with this person? Or why am I doing these things? Why am I ending up in places that I do not want to be? Why am I doing things with my body I know I don't want to do? You know why? Because I was triggered. But we're going to get a little deeper into that. Today I have a guest that is going to share her story of living a life with unhealed triggers. Lisa.
Yes, ma'am.
How are you?
I'm good.
Now, let me give you the backstory of Lisa. A few weeks ago, I did a podcast, and when I finished, I went down in the lobby, and there she was. I'm a firm believer in nothing just happens. Everything happens for a reason. So she asked me, she said, what would you podcast about? And I said, triggers. And she began to tell me her story. And I was like, oh, no, baby, you have to come on and share that, because it's someone out there right now that needs to hear your story. And this is the place where you can tell it. No judgment zone. It's important. And beyond that, we started out as gym sisters. Gym sisters. We work out together and we would talk, but not on the level that we talked that day. You see, God put people in place for a reason. With that being said, tell us something about yourself other than what I just said. What kind of profession are you in? Or
I'm in the medical field.
She's in the medical field.
I have 3 kids, 3 daughters. I'm on my second marriage, which I think has a lot to do with your subject, your topic, and maybe we can talk about that later. But just trying to get through it, just trying to heal from it, trying to find a happy place, which has been kind of hard to do. Hopefully I can get through this without crying or getting very emotional, because it is an emotional thing for me to talk about. But it's time. I'm ready.
And I'm glad you decided to share it with us. So when you're living with your traumas, it's like living in fear.
Every day.
Every day. You're always thinking about whatever it is that has you in fear. Some event or some person or whatever it was. You're afraid that it's going to happen again, so you base your life off of that one event. And sometimes that's not easy. So let's get to your story, and then we can kind of tie in what I mean by living with unhealed trauma. Okay, so tell us your story from the beginning.
Well, I don't know if I want to go all the way back from the beginning. When I was younger, I think in a lot of the black community, black homes, we have to deal with being molested. And so I would just remember, my uncles, my cousins, everybody just telling me how special I was. There was just something about me. Now, when people tell me that, it's kind of hard for me to take it, because, I go back to that little 6 or 7-year-old little girl when I'm being told there's something special about you, but that leads to somebody touching you. My mom was always sick when I was growing up. She had MS and she was in and out of the hospital. So it was kind of my thing to kind of take care of my brothers and my dad while she was in the hospital. And if we wasn't with my dad because he had to work, then he shipped us to her sister's house or somebody that could take care of us while he worked, and then went to the hospital to visit my mom. And so, it just became, and I don't want to use the word normal, but it just became normal for me. For my cousins or uncles to touch me because there was something special about me. And got over that, got through that. Then
it's no getting over it. You kind of work through it. So let's back up a little bit. So as a young person, you were sexually assaulted by family.
Yes.
So your trigger in that is when someone says,
I'm special or there's something about you. Even to this day at 54 when they say that, it's like, yeah, okay. I know where this going. I know what you want. Because that's the only time I ever heard that, when it was leading up to wanting to be touched or wanting to do something to me. It was always that.
So in your teenage years, how did that affect your relationships with other people?
When I became a teenager, at that point, it became my brother. Maybe 3-4 years of that. In a sense, kind of being afraid when my mom was sick or went somewhere, he would threaten me and my little brother. Once again, it just became normal. So my mom didn't understand why we didn't really have a relationship because I couldn't tell her. You know, she's dealing with my brother. You know, she's dealing with my dad. She's dealing with her illness, trying to start a business. I just couldn't go to her and tell her what was going on. You know, you living with somebody who's kind of threatening you. Like, if you say something, you know what's going to happen when mom and dad leave us alone. So I just didn't say anything. And I just let it go on for a number of years. So by the time I turned 16, I was already pregnant. And by the time me and my mom really had a conversation about it, I kind of told her, like, you know, if you think about it, I never really had a childhood. Like, y'all are trying to figure out, like, how did this happen? But to me, it was just normal. Like, how can I play with baby dolls? How can I think about being a child or all of this? It's just like this was just what's the next thing to do was to, I guess, get pregnant or whatever. Mm-hmm. Because I've been having sex for so long with family members that, you know, it just seemed normal to do those things.
So did you get pregnant by a family member or did you?
No,
okay.
No.
So your relationship, I'm saying, even though you were going through things, you decided to have a relationship outside of, well, I wouldn't call that a relationship, but you had a boyfriend, of course. Because how did that affect you in that relationship?
By the time I had a boyfriend, my brother was away at college. So it kind of stopped. He got a girlfriend, so it kind of tapered off his senior year of high school. So I didn't have to worry about it no more, per se. To me, sex is, and now talking about it, sex is a tool to me. It's not, I don't know, I can't equate sex and love together. For me, I can't do that. So by the time I thought I was in love, and so I probably pushed the issue more than he did about having sex. And you know, it just happened our first time having sex, actually. But I think I was the more aggressive person because of what I went through.
So when you say you viewed sex as a tool and not a thing of love, explain that.
Just something to do. You know, if you want my time, if you want to be with me, this is what it's going to be. Mm-hmm. There's no love involved in it for me. And I can actually say that even at 54, there's really no love in it for me. I want to say my first husband probably was the closest and probably would be the only person I can probably say that he kind of showed me a little bit of sex and love, but still, it's still hard for me to put it together.
Wow.
So it has left a scar for me. And I just remember, having a conversation with my brother because it just got to a point that I just exploded. Just dealing with a whole lot. I just exploded with him. And I just had to have a conversation with him to tell him, like, do you know what it's like to live like this? You've had a wife of 30 years. You've been happy. You have a daughter you love, have taken her around the world, and you just living your life. Me, I'm still stuck at that teenager being molested, that 6-year-old. I'm still stuck there in a grown woman's body. And do you know what it's like to have kids and fear that I could possibly be a predator? Because it was always said, if this happens to you, then more than likely you'll turn around and do it to somebody else. So living with that fear, having kids and living with that, and not being able to accept a compliment from somebody because I already know, or I think I know, where it's going to lead. So I either cut it off like whatever, because I already know what you want. Now next, let's go on. So those are the things that I carry around with me. And I just feel like nobody, until that day I met, we met downstairs, I just feel like nobody's ever asked me.
Wow.
Or even cared to talk to me, because even with my family finding out about a year or so ago about everything, I think they blame me, because my mom made a comment that I knew better, or that I could have came and talked to her, but I didn't feel I could, so I feel like a victim all over again sometimes.
When you initially told me that, I asked you, do you think that your mom may have been, assaulted in the family, and it's just been like one big generational curse that's consistently going through your family? And it may explain her reaction. She may have been taught to, to shut up, deal with it, and just go on. And for a lot of us in Black and brown families, that's how we're taught. Yeah. Even in my family, a lot of things we don't talk about. Yeah. And unfortunately, I'm seeing a lot of it in my children. I wish I had a talk to them about some certain things. Yeah. Yeah. So it's something to think about. When you're living with that trauma and something happens to you, sometimes you have to look at other people with a spiritual eye and not a flesh eye. It's hurtful, but then again, they're human too.
Yeah, I want to say, okay, I can do that. And some days I'm good at covering things up.
But you got to heal you before you get to that level.
Yeah. Nobody's ever talked to me about that, or even showed me how to even go about healing me. Mm-hmm. So I think lately the triggers have been the whole situation going on with Puff Daddy and all this other stuff, as we talked about earlier. I thought, okay, I can put it to the side. I see that it has torn my mom up, torn my brother up, and okay, Lisa, forget your feelings. Because now, your mom feel like she has to choose between you and your brother. So what do? Because she wants me to put all of this to the side and just let it go so that we can all, come together. So I'm like, okay, Lisa, well, be the bigger person. You've been the bigger person. Mm-hmm. So continue to be the bigger person. Mm-hmm. This ain't going to hurt you. You can deal with it. You're stronger. God don't put more on you than you can bear. You're been chosen to endure this, so you can endure this. There has to be a reason why God put this on you. So I'm telling myself all of this stuff. Okay, Lisa, we can get through it. Let's move on. And then I turn on, it might have been TikTok or something. I turned on, and Orlando Brown was on there. And he was just talking about all the things that he had went through. And I remember watching him on TV with my kids, growing up. And I'm like, oh my God. And at that point, I had to say, God, thank you, because even though I'm dealing with this, it could be so much worse.
Yes.
No, I didn't turn to drugs. For a short period of time, it was food that comforted me. Mm-hmm. And then if it wasn't that, then it was sex that comforted me for a minute.
So let's back up. So as you're online and you're just looking, you were triggered by the situation with
Orlando Brown
and Puff, Puffy Combs. Yeah. I don't know which name he uses now, but anyway, see how that experience. This is exact things that I've been telling you guys. You could be triggered by the smallest thing. She probably was just going through her day and say, "Well, let me see what's online," and voila, it's right there in your face. And what do? When you're reactivated, she was reactivated by those things. And I will say Orlando Brown reactivated me too. You know, his situation, I just feel like he needs help. Instead of recording him, he needs some help. But anyway, that's another subject. So she was triggered by that. And those triggers brought back all those negative emotions. Have you did any work previous to now?
I started seeing a therapist maybe 6 years ago. I started seeing her, and she was just telling me how good I was at putting things in little compartments and sticking them in the back of my mind and not thinking about them. I told her because that's the only way I've been able to survive all this time was to do that.
Avoidance.
Yeah. So I just became good at it. Nobody knew my story. Nobody knew what I had been going through. You know, I got good at hiding it from my parents. Obviously, my brother thought everything was good, you know, because I put everything in the back of my mind and just kind of moved on. Just backing up a little bit, my first husband, I had to kind of confide in him because we had moved in together. And at that time, our second child, she might not have been quite one. And he left to go to work. And he came home from work. Now, may I mind you, this is 8-9 hours later. I'm sitting in the bathroom. I cut all my hair off. I'm sitting there with the scissors wanting to kill myself. And the only thing that really stopped me was the fact that my daughter was laying in the bed. And I play often what my mom say. If anything happens to you guys, nobody's going to love you the way your mom loves you. And that played in my head, and I just could not go through with it. And so he came home with me sitting in the bathroom, crying, my hair cut off, and she laying in the bed asleep. So that's like the first time I wanted to, I guess, hurt myself because of everything.
You got into your breaking point. Something triggered you that day. Who knows what it was?
I can tell you, it was listening to Oprah Winfrey. She had a story about, I think she told her story. Mm-hmm. And that triggered me. So, you know, once again, fast forwarding to listening to Orlando Brown, I was just like, God, thank you, because it could have ended there.
Thank God.
And it didn't. So it has to be a reason why you let me live. It has to be a reason why I'm going through this. I don't know what it is. And maybe one day you'll reveal it to me what it is. I don't know. You know, I think for me too, I don't want my mom to leave this earth. And I don't know why I put everything on me being ashamed. That I don't want her to be ashamed of me. And I don't want to be the one to tear the family apart. So I try to find a way to, I don't know, put it back in the back of my head and try to move on and try to be the bigger person. But it's just hard sometimes.
Well, at this point in your journey of healing right now, you can't be the bigger person until you're one whole person. Right now, you're still a little bit broken on the inside. That's a lot to carry. You can't carry all of that and think that it's your job to hold a family together. No, it's not your job. It's your job to hold yourself together first. And think about your daughters and what they see. You gotta take care of Lisa. You can't hold that burden anymore. It wasn't your fault that happened to you. You didn't choose that life. You didn't choose for that to happen to you. So you can't hold that burden that is up to you.
You know, I hear it, but it's just so hard to accept it.
Yeah, I know.
So I just feel like I'm just existing sometimes. You know, even in my second marriage, I just feel like I'm existing because, you know, I feel God did send me someone that could love me and show me,
Mm-hmm.
you know, how to love myself. But I just cannot, I don't know, cross that threshold. I just, there's just something there that stops me.
Fear.
It could be that.
Fear. That trauma that you experience now is a big ball of fear. And that fear is guiding your actions. And I'm just talking out loud. From what I'm just listening to you and your story. You know, it's like you're living in fear. You're scared to go forward because you're still stuck in the past. You haven't quite healed from that past.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that looks like, how long it's going to take, what it's going to take. But you're on the road to recovery. You're on the road of healing right now. Just being able to come here today and speak on it, that's a big step.
Yeah.
And with your first husband, what happened with that relationship?
I told him I think it ran its course. We're still very good friends. Very good friends. This may not make sense, but it may make sense. I told him I think he came into my life to take the fear away. I did not have a good night's sleep until we were together. I knew I was safe. Once again, other things came into our marriage, but we were together 23 years. We had 3 beautiful daughters out of that marriage, and like I said, to this day, I can call him and say, "Hey, I need to talk," and he's there to listen, and vice versa for him. So we just grew apart. Like I told him, I think you were there to give me 23 years of peace. And we just grew apart. So.
But within your marriage, now that you're on this journey of healing, so within your marriage, can you say what part of your trauma was in your marriage, or what part did you carry besides the point of not being able to love and the sexual part? What else that you can tell us that you carried into that marriage or in your relationships, going forward?
It was just, for me, just sitting back thinking it was just the sexual part of it. And believe it or not, that's what broke us up.
Mm.
He was just one of those people, when he loved, he loved. He didn't tell you he loved you unless he really meant that he loved you. But me, on the other hand, I think he introduced me to a certain lifestyle, and I think I came addicted to that, where it was just something to do for him, if that kind of makes sense without going too much into detail about that. But once again, sex is just the the end of all for me. You know, I can take it, I can leave it, it's just something to do for me. And I know that's bad to say, but it just is. You know, not really understanding that before I got married the second time. Because now, you know, talking about it, it is kind of unfair to my current husband because I view sex that way. And that wasn't something that I realized until we started talking that, hey, Lisa, got a funny little way of the way you view sex, you know, which makes this kind of difficult in my second marriage because of my view on it.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping out of all of this that I can put those two things together. And because he deserves all of me and not just half of me. He does. He's a good guy. He's a great man. And he deserves all of me. So if nothing else, I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to find peace for myself and be able to give peace to somebody else. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
So what made you get married a second time? The first time, I get it. Like you was in love. You felt safe with this person, and your trauma, you already what you call it, compartmentalize it.
Yes.
So with this person, you're safe. If you talk about it, it's okay. If you don't talk about it, it's okay. So you went through 23 years of avoidance. And I'm just trying to tie in my message with her life so you can kind of see what happens when you avoid it and how it affects your relationships and your thought processes going forward.
So with my second marriage, so I ended up getting divorced. And so I did something my mom had always told me to do. And I'm sure you guys have heard this too. Write down what it is that you're looking for in a man and stick it in the Bible. So I wrote down.
Ooh, I need to write a book. No, let me stop.
I wrote down everything that I wanted in a man. Everything. And so I said, okay, God, I'm going to, give my life over to you. I'm going to start going to church, read my Bible, fasting, getting into holistic nutrition, working out, and all this other stuff. So I did all of that. And so I wrote my list down, and I probably met my husband maybe 2 years, 3 years after I wrote this list. He was everything on this list that I had asked God for. Okay, God. Everything. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, what? He didn't come with, I had a 6-carat diamond ring on there. I didn't get that one. But everything else, he came with it. And I was like, okay. And by then, I started listening to other ministers. I started going to church, just trying to understand that that God allowed this to happen to me. If I'm going to be mad at anybody, I need to be mad at him, not with the devil, not with nothing. God controls everything. Mm-hmm. So God does not allow anything to happen to you unless that's what he wants to happen. At least that was my belief. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, God, okay. So you allowed this to happen to me. There's a message in this somewhere, and you'll reveal it to me as time goes on, as I get further and further into the Bible, reading and understanding. And so here's this man that was Pentecostal into the church. At that time, I said, okay, I'm going to stop being the man of the relationship, because my daddy told me whoever made the money controlled the relationship. So I always made the money. So I kind of had I guess maybe a manly type vibe a little bit. So I said, okay, let me put that down. Let me be very feminine. It's time for me to turn on the feminine. I was brought up to be that way.
That's another conversation for another podcast. But anyway, yeah.
So I was brought up to be that. But because of my first husband, I was put in the role to be the breadwinner. So I kind of took on that over the years. So I said, okay, well, let's try something different. Mm-hmm. Okay, God, I asked for this. So let me change. Because obviously I'm the problem. Can't nobody else be the problem. It has to be me. So I changed, and here come this man of God into my life. And even to this day, he's still, Lisa, God got you. Lisa, just trust in God. Trust the process. Trust the process. Let's read the Bible. Understand this, understand that. So I fell in love with him because he showed me, once again, God. He reintroduced me to God. And so I realized that you cannot fall out of love with somebody's purpose in life. But you can fall out of love with people if you're basing it on money or looks. Mm-hmm. So because love is hard for me, I got to find something else. So what's your purpose in life? When he started telling me his purpose and what he felt God put him here for, that's what I latched on to, his purpose in life. And so it kind of made me get out my head about what I had going on and try to understand a woman's role in this, and understand that as a wife, it's our role to help our husbands get to the point that God has called them, or to get to their purpose God has called them. As a wife, that's my role. So I fell in love with all of that because it took me away from thinking about what was really the real issue.
Avoidance. Well, I understand why. I get it. Maybe I've been down that rabbit hole too. That's why I'm like, avoidance. I know. We do. And I don't know, for me, I think the only difference between you and I, as far as relationship-wise, I said, you know what? I'm not going to, I don't want to be in a relationship right now. I'm in a relationship with me. People say that, but unless you actually experience it, you don't understand it. So for the past few years, I've been in a relationship with myself, learning myself, learning what I like and don't like, because I've spent years being a people pleaser, more worried about what man think than what God thinks.
Ooh,
So I spent my entire life doing those things. Yeah, I was a help me, but I was helping me to, I feel like, the wrong people. I was helping them to the liquor store. You know what I'm saying? They're going to buy weed on Nikki right there to help me. No, that's not God's intended purpose.
Yes.
But it took for me to be by myself, learn myself, grow my relationship with God to realize that.
Yes. And he came along. I probably had been separated from my first husband maybe 3 years when he came along.
Oh, wow.
So I had those there. I watched no television for 3 years. I didn't listen to the radio unless I was in the gym, because, she played the radio in the gym.
Were those all triggers for you, or that was just something you chose to do?
That was something I chose to do. That was my happy place. I found that was my happy place, was being in the gym. So I was working out 6 days a week, just about.
You're trying to kill me now. But anyway, that's
so that was my happy place.
Okay.
So I had a couple of years of getting to know Lisa and what I liked and what I didn't like, and getting to know God. My morning started off with meditation with him for 30 minutes, talking to him in the car to work, going to the gym, talking to him. And so he, like I said, I felt, okay, God told me I was ready, so he sent this person. And the funny thing was, when he proposed to me, I was like, okay, no. So I was in the shower, and plain as day, God said, that's it, Lisa. I never, ever asked God, was somebody right for me, or even consulted him in anything that I did. But because I had those couple of years by myself, learning myself and putting God in the midst of everything that I did, I said, okay. And let me just back up for 1 minute. So when we met each other, because I had my list, because I knew what I wanted, and I wasn't going to take anything less than that. If you want to be with me, I need a man that's going to work out. He going to fast and we going to pray. That's what I need. He's okay. You ain't said but a thing. He lived in one state. I lived here. So I said, okay. He wanted to meet me. I said, okay, before we even meet each other face to face, we got to fast and pray for 30 days. You ain't said a thing, Lisa. He fasted and prayed with me for 30 days. We ate one meal a day when the sun went down. We got on the phone with each other. We prayed, and then we ate our meal. We listened to Apostle McCoy every night for 30 days. We woke up to prayer 5 o'clock in the morning. We prayed. My lunch break, we prayed. And then, like I said, before we ate dinner, we prayed. And so when he proposed to me, after we did all of this, we met each other face to face. Then he proposed to me. And then I'm in the shower and God told me. And I asked him, I said, well, why did you, or what make you think I'm the one? He said, Lisa, because God told me how to love you. I know the things that you've been through. And I was like, how you know? Because we ain't never talked about the things I've been through because I don't tell nobody my business. He said, I know the trauma you've been through. God already told me how to love you. I got you. That blew me away. Because I've never had nobody tell me that God done told them how to love me. Because I ain't even love me. Really and truly, I didn't know how to. So he's like, it's going to be okay. And I trusted him from that point on.
Wow. So how long have you been married now?
4 years.
And I'm going to tell you guys, they look so cute working out together. I'm like, ooh, I want to love like them. You know, getting healthy together, fasting, praying together. Some of us need that. No, all of us need that as women. I'm sorry.
Yes. Yes.
Because I always felt that if a man is not led by God, then who is leading him and where is he going to lead you? And I've been led in the ditch one too many times. I'm tired of being thrown up in the ditch. I need somebody to lead me to the light, if that's the case. So that's why I took this journey of healing, and that's why I am now sharing with other people that may be in the position that I was in. It's important to me. I feel like God sent me on this mission to help other people, and that's what I plan on doing. No, that's what I'm doing.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, let me back up. Taking time to getting to know who you are is so important. I can recall when I was in my brokenness. I like to use that term. When I was in my brokenness and I would meet someone and they would say, oh, what do you like? I was kind of like the lady on Coming to America. I like whatever you like. Well, where do you go? I like to go wherever you go. So when the date came and I met someone that sit me down and said, tell me what it is you like, I couldn't even answer the freaking question because I didn't know. I spent so many years
Pleasing others, liking what others like. Yeah.
Because just as Lisa, my views on love, sex, and myself was distorted. I had trauma just like she had trauma, but it all ties together. It's going to all lead you to the same road unless you decide to take a path to healing. It's important. A test is a testimony. We never know why God put us through things. But you can stay confident that he's going to give you all the resources you need to make it to the other side. Then it's on you to decipher. Are you going to hold your hand out to help the next person? What are you going to do with it once you get to the other side? Because he's going to give you a whole lot that you're going to have to deal with. It's going to seem like you knocked down. You don't know what to do.
Yes.
So that learning yourself is so important in tying in a relationship with God. Now, you may be the person that hasn't made it there yet. How about we just start with learning who you are as a person by yourself? And another thing I think is important, everybody's not meant to be married. Everybody's not meant to be in a relationship. It's okay to be by yourself. When your time come, it will come. If it don't come, then be okay with it. And that's where I am right now. But then I look at some of my past relationships and I ask myself, boy, with the things I did in my brokenness, girl, you need your butt whooped.
Ooh, first of all, let's give thanks to God that you got through all of that.
Yes.
Because, my God.
People will take advantage of you.
Yes.
And like I said before, you'll find yourself doing things that you know deep down you don't want to do.
Yep.
So another thing you told me that day, we're going to backtrack a little bit further, is you said when you had your children, you were like living in fear. So you was raising them. Can you tell me how you raise your children with that fear?
Well, we talked about, I think the example I had given you was giving my daughter a bath, being afraid of giving her a bath, or like, am I going to touch her? Am I going to do something wrong because it was done to me? So just living in fear. But once again, because I was so good at putting things to the back, I put it to the back. Let me say, maybe most people may not want to let their 2-year-old take a bath by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I had to because I was scared. No, you standing at the door. You okay in there? Everything good? Okay, make sure you wash that. So not really enjoying the whole experience of being a mother because you're afraid, I missed out on that. And that was one of the examples I know I gave my brother, was telling him, like, you don't know what that's like. You didn't have to.
So when you made the decision, okay, let me backtrack for just a minute. I said it's 2 ways that most people deal with this type of these type of triggers. You're either going to avoid it or you're going to confront it. Now, at this point in Lisa's journey, she decided to confront the biggest trigger of them all, which was her brother. How did he respond?
He just sat back. He listened. But really didn't have too much to say. It was like, well, do you want me to apologize to you about it?
Deflecting.
Like, well, I would think you would want to. I feel like you broke me. Now, forget the cousin and the uncle. You were my brother. You broke me. Like, don't you want to help put me back together? Don't you want to fix this? And he became a little defensive about it and everything. Still to this day, we really haven't even really resolved everything. He did finally say, if we need to go to therapy, let's do it.
Are you thinking about doing that in your journey?
I think I need to go back to therapy.
With him or by yourself or both?
It needs to be both.
Yeah.
It needs to be both.
I agree. I think with him, until he deals with what is inside of him that caused him to do whatever it is he done, what he done to you, he's not gonna probably give you what you're looking for as far as an apology or
well, he did kind of
understanding.
He did kind of mention something happened to him when he was younger. So, out of anger, he did it to me out of anger.
Wow.
So, like, oh, Really? Out of anger. I got that.
Do you have your daughters around your family?
My daughters just now found out the whole situation probably almost 2 years ago.
But you had your daughters around them.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that work? Dealing with your fear, knowing what happened to you, dealing with your fear, and then you put your daughters.
This is
That's their uncle.
This is crazy. Now we're gonna back up a little bit more. When I got my divorce, he was like, "Hey, Lisa." Now once again, but he asked me by helping me out through all of this. I think he did it out of guilt because he said, "Hey, I got this big beautiful home, just me and my daughter. You and your kids come and live." So me once again being the bigger person, not telling nobody, saying, "Okay, maybe this will help me get over some things," because we would have to live together. We would have to talk to each other, and maybe I'll kind of slide this in, and we can kind of talk about, what happened. Of course, that really didn't happen until I got mad and blew up at him. Then that's when it came out. So we had lived together 3 years, never once discussed this. He treated my daughters wonderfully. Didn't do anything out of, that shouldn't be done. Mm-hmm. And I trusted him to not do that to my kids, if that made sense.
Why?
He was just a different person. He said he made peace with God about some things that he had done in his past. This was like years ago, when I was like 21, 22. He had made peace with God about things. Mm-hmm. So he viewed things a little differently. He was successful, or he is successful. He's living his life. And this is just something, I guess, that was just me. Mm. So, and of course, he had a daughter. So they had a beautiful relationship. And as far as I know, he's never done anything to her. And when she found out, she was devastated. Like, how could you do this to my aunt? So that put a rift between them, because she was like, how can my dad do this? Aunt Lisa, how could this happen to you? So, I know we both need to go to counseling. His ex-wife made a comment of some things that he had said to her about the whole situation. And I believe, like my ex-husband told me, a broke clock is right at least twice. Mm. So some of the things that she said, she had to have gotten it from somewhere. Mm-hmm. Even though she was saying it to hurt him, but it really hurt me. And another trigger is the fact that he didn't speak up and defend me or correct what he had done. Because I think that would have made me feel a little better had he stood up and owned up to it. But he didn't. And so that makes it a little harder for me at this point right now to forgive. Because you've had opportunities. Your wife has gone on Facebook. Your ex-wife has gone on Facebook. She's yelled in the middle of the street. And not once did you correct her. Not once did you come to my defense about the whole situation. Other than tell me don't read it on Facebook. Just let it go. She crazy. She ain't take her medication.
No, I agree with you. That's something, pillow talk, as we like to say.
Yeah. And I think that would have helped me a little bit had he had just stood up and said something. Like, no, that's not true. I did this or something.
Yeah.
But not doing anything, it's making it a little hard sometimes to forgive and forget.
Well, to forgive Something to that nature is going to take a whole lot of time, I can imagine. A whole lot of time, I know. Because it's layers and layers and layers of things that you have to unfold in the process. So if you're on your journey of healing, it's important that you take each layer and you take time. I don't know how much time it's going to take. It's no clock. Yeah. May take 10 years. I don't know. It took me forever. I'm 52 and I'm still unfolding layers about myself and other people because it's going to be revealed to you. Now, the information that God reveals to you about other people, you got to be prepared to accept it. See, I wasn't prepared. When God opened my eyes, when I started seeing people through a spiritual lens and I started opening my eyes to certain people that I had in my life, I wasn't prepared for that. I wasn't prepared to let those people go. It's a journey. So I just want you to think about that for a second. Think about that. So before I end this podcast, I always like to build your spiritual muscle as well. Like I said, I'm your coach, Coach Nikki G. I'm going to build your emotional, mental muscle, but also your spiritual muscle. And I'm going to read from 2 Timothy 1:7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Once again, a lot of us right now, we're living in fear. You can't move forward because you're stuck in the past. You have a fear of being alone because somebody abandoned you when you were younger. And because you have that fear of being alone, you are right now in a relationship or having relationships with people that you know you don't need to be there. But you're there because you haven't dealt with that trauma. It's fear. Fear of being loved. Because you wasn't loved, so, just as Lisa said, that's fear. But someone going to come along and love you, and because of that fear that you're carrying and holding on to, that person can't love you. I had somebody tell me, ma'am, I'm trying to love you, but your heart is behind a barbed wire, and it's got electrical currents on, and you ain't letting nobody near it. He opened my eyes to that because I didn't realize how hard I had gotten, like, oh, no. Baby, I was the queen at, avoidance. And he said, baby, that's like barbed wire around that hard lady. I'm trying to love you. So we all living with that fear. Fear of not being accepted or being validated by man. That could be woman or man. When I say man, it could be both. Not being accepted. Therefore, you're changing your bodies. You're going out here getting plastic surgery. You want a bigger butt and all that. If God wanted us to do those things, he would have given it to you from birth. He knew you in the womb. So if you didn't come out that way or you're not that way, don't worry about it. Stop worrying about pleasing other people. Because if you be truthful with yourself, you're doing a lot of things to your body and with your body to please somebody that probably don't even care. In this journey of wholeness, God is so important that he is in the forefront of every decision, every move you make. He has to be there. He's giving you the power. You have it internally, but you don't use it because you're stuck with fear. You rather cling to fear. He's giving you the power to love and of a sound mind. And if you're really being honest with yourself, and I'm not telling you nothing what I heard, I'm telling you what I know. I had to be honest with myself and say, what we like to call red flags, I like to call the spirit. The spirit come talk to you and say, now you know. You know you don't need to be eating all this food. I need you to get to that word. Or you know you don't need to be around these people. Why are you doing this? But it's a mindset. You got to want that relationship with God. You got to want to grow as a person and just grow your relationship. Your life will become a whole lot peaceful. It will become peaceful. I was about to say peacefuler, but I don't think that's a word. It becomes more peaceful. Then you'll be able to let someone love you. You'll be able to drop all those fears because you know God has already given you the power. What are you waiting for? He's waiting for you. The doors are already open. The people are in place. What are you waiting for? You going to continue to keep living in fear? High blood pressure, anxiety, emotional eater. How many of us right now, like I was, 300 pounds? can't breathe, can't walk. I was so bad out there in the world. I remember one day I was trying to cross the street. I was out of breath. You think I went on a diet? I went right home mad because I couldn't walk across the street and ate up some more food. You know? Or I got in these different types of relationships knowing I didn't have no business being there. Abandonment issues. Didn't want to be alone. Some of us right now as women, I need a man. I got to have a man. Okay, you going to get a man, but what is that man going to do for you? One big trauma bond. I guess I'm through preaching for the day. It's so important that you handle these triggers, these emotions. Emotional and mental well-being is so important because that is how you live your life. And if you need help along the way, it may be too much for you to bear. You go to God in prayer, but there are people in place to help you. He has people in place. Psychiatrists, maybe your mentor, your pastor, priest, I don't know. You have to pray to God and go in that direction. For me, I went to church. I got closer to the word. The women of the church, thank you. I thank God for them. Each and every day I showed up. I never said 3 words. Lately, they told me, Nikki, we see a brand new person in you. Because now you're speaking. I'm like, yeah, I was in a broken place. But I needed to be fed that, which y'all were giving. I needed that. I still need it. I still show up. And I might not say 3 words, but they know why. That's just who I am as a person. I'm feeding. I'm getting fed. And a lot of us need to be fed. These truths that I'm putting out there, they may be hard to face, but some of us know that's where you are in your life. You don't have to stay there. You can get out. If you need a little more help, or you feel like you need that accountability partner, or you need that support, go to internaleevolutions.com and you can book a discovery session. It's free. That is my coaching business. You will come in and we would just discuss whatever areas you feel like you need the support. And if I can't help you, I have a network of people that are waiting for you. So it's very important. Now, if you go to internaleevolutions.com, book a free discovery session. The next thing I need you to do is to hit the follow button. If you enjoyed the information that you receive right now, you can tune in every week. I talk about a different topic. This is, I like to say, a grown woman podcast. I'm not on here talking about who did what in Hollywood. I'm sorry. It's interesting to listen to, but I'm trying to help people grow mentally and emotionally. And if you're not in that place, maybe this is not the podcast for you. But I suggest if you know somebody that's ready to grow, please have them follow me or go to Internal Evolutions and we can sit down and talk. The most important step is for you to start. And I would like to thank Lisa for being so brave and showing us the power that God put in her. She dropped the fear and showed us the power of God for her to come in and speak about her situation. Because I know that's not an easy thing to do.
It's not, but it needs to be done. It's time. It's time.
And I'm praying for a healing for you and your family. In the name of Jesus, a healing. And I hope that this podcast helps someone. Ooh. And with that being said, you guys have a good week, and we will speak again on something else. Like I said, day for day, I don't know, wherever the Spirit moving. We'll talk again next week.